Recently, ZUN got invited onto a high school radio show and answered some questions. There was a lot of cool, and funny, new information. I'm using Iceberry's translations from Twitter to cover my favorite questions. If you want to read all of them, you can find the questions in the description below. One of the topics ZUN was asked about was how there's a lot of current events that show up in Touhou, things like remote distancing, and Comic-Ket's weird state. ZUN explained that Touhou's a sort of diary to him, and he bases a lot of things on how he feels about certain topics at the time. That's something most people have assumed. But here's the kicker. When asked about the moon, ZUN said he thinks the moon is cool, and that he also likes Mars. So a follow-up question happened. Any plans on having Mars appear in Touhou? ZUN replied that it'd be really interesting to see Mars in Gensokyo, but he doesn't know yet. This means that yes, Mars is a possibility for Touhou. ZUN was asked about the Yukkuri incident of last year. If you didn't know, essentially, someone abused the Japanese copyright system to trademark a fan-made part of Touhou. It got to the point wherein explosion threats happened, and the government even got involved. The copyright troll was eventually defeated, and things went back to normal. As for ZUN's view, well, he thought it was cool how Yukkuris were suddenly being talked about in mainstream media. He thought it was fun, and coyly thanked the instigator for starting the incident. Someone brought up the P-Row in Dolls in Pseudo Paradise, and ZUN didn't remember her. He remembered the girl on the front cover, but not the clown because it's been so long. This has left a few Dolls fans understandably disappointed, but I'm willing to bet he'd remember who she was if he reread the story text. There is a section on Touhou gameplay skill too. Someone asked how many Ultimate Life forms, people who've beat an impossible spell card without items, have come up to him. He said a lot, and some were even middle schoolers. So, there's probably some middle schoolers out there better than most of the world at Touhou. He also said that he's never actually beaten the entire game in sequence without items, and that his skills and shmups have been declining as of late. He has to clear stages separately now instead of in a row to keep the difficulty up to satisfy lunatic players. ZUN was asked about bringing back BC98 characters. While for Mima in a previous interview, he specifically said it'd be difficult, here he refused to specify yes or no. Instead, he'd like to leave it to your own desires. Interesting. There was a question about naming characters, and ZUN talked a bit about the process. You can't just use common names all the time, because then some characters might end up sharing the name, like how we have two Mais. He also mentioned that he changes things pretty late into development, and things can see through the cracks, like Narumi being called Naruko by Marisa. People like to assume that Naruko was Marisa giving Narumi a nickname. Nope, it was a game error. Want a Touhou game recommendation from ZUN? Well, he said he thinks the fans would know better, but if he were to give one, Touhou 18, since it's the most current of his Dairi from the mainline games. What does ZUN think about the character popularity poll? Well, he thinks it's fun to watch, but is also a bit confused about why Yomu and Flandre are so popular. He thinks other characters are bigger weirdos. While I don't think they're overrated, I bet the people who do feel very vindicated by this. This next question was the most popular one overseas. I'll read it directly. I'm a 20-year-old male. How do I become Marisa Kirasame? And ZUN's response? Well, why don't you buy a pointy hat and put it on? He explains how since Marisa's human, it's still easy to become her. Otherwise, you'd need to reject your humanity. The original compiler of the interview questions, Iwana, was laughing really hard over this being the question people overseas liked. As for ZUN's response, this is a gender norm breaking answer, a very funny answer, and a JoJo reference all wrapped together. Ooh, here's a big one. ZUN was asked about designs for characters only mentioned, and he said he doesn't make them. But someone then asked him about Rin Satsuki. He once again reconfirmed that she was meant to be a third protagonist, but also said that he did make a design for her. This is huge. Before, we only knew about her being referenced in lines of code from Touhou 6. It was a bit ambiguous on whether she had an actual design or not, but now we know she did. When asked about his favorite fan work, ZUN mentioned that he doesn't look at them all too much. But he really likes music, I mean of course he does, and loves making noise at concerts. He loves chanting things like Erin, Erin. Where will Touhou be in 15 or 100 years? Well, ZUN thinks it'll be gone 100 years from now, but he thinks that in 15 years, Touhou will still be here as something familiar, even as media changes. Someone thankfully asked if there would be another Hifu CD coming out soon. ZUN didn't say yes or no, but he did say he thinks we can look forward to one since he works on them during spare time between Touhou games. He did mention it'd essentially be in place of where a game might be though. Lastly, I want to talk about my favorite answer. It was brought up that Flandre Scarlet has recently appeared a lot. As many of you know, ZUN doesn't bring back super popular characters all that much, hence why Alice hasn't been in a game in over a decade. So why did Flan suddenly appear with a speaking role in a manga as the solver of an incident, and something really recent I won't spoil? Well, ZUN went to his son's school and saw a picture of Flandre Scarlet on the wall. That's not the only reason why he brought her back, but it did get him thinking about how Flandre might have a lot of fans. Remember when I said that ZUN didn't look at fanworks all that much? Yeah. But think about it. A kid drawing one of their favorite Touhou characters helped inspire ZUN to bring her back. That's kinda awesome. And those were my favorite questions from ZUN's high school interview. There's quite a few more questions still, so if you want to read more, you can check out Ice Fairy's translation thread in the description. Now if you excuse me, I'm going to fly to Japan with a crayon drawing of Raikou. Why? No reason.